Once upon a time, 20 powerful rings were forged, 3 for the elves, 7 for the great dwarves, 9 for the land of men, and 1 for the treacherous Dark Lord Sauron in the boiling depths of Mordor. This ring was filled with his evil and his strong desire to control all the other rings. A powerful alliance of elves and humans came together to fight against the power of this ring, and they fought with Mordor's troops. In the middle of this disorderly conflict, with Sauron spreading havoc in the alliance, which was on the verge of defeat, Isildur summoned the bravery to strike down his enemy by ripping the ring from his grasp, and joyfully, the alliance emerged victorious. And the ring, now bereft of its owner, was given to Isildur, who, rather than destroying it, was seduced by its power, and decided to keep it as an heirloom instead. This choice proved fatal, as it eventually led to his demise, and the ring, thought to be lost, settled down at the riverbed for a period of 2,500 years. It was ignored and hidden from history until the creature Gollum found it in the eerie gloom of a cave. It enchanted him and made him live 500 years longer, but it also made him crazy. Destiny, on the other hand, had other intentions, and the ring slipped away from Gollum, ending up with an unsuspecting hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. Years after our adventure began, the setting shifts to the peaceful land of the hobbits, the Shire. Introducing Sam the Elder, the wizard Gandalf arrives to celebrate Bilbo Baggins' outstanding 111th birthday. He greets the two people warmly and remarks on how time doesn't seem to have taken its normal toll on Bilbo. Later on that night, there is a massive party with fireworks dancing and all kinds of excitement. Bilbo delights the small hobbit children with tales of his head journey. As the night goes, Bilbo gives an impassioned speech to the community. He slips on the ring and disappears, leaving the crowd shocked. Back at his home, Bilbo meets Gandalf, who tells him to leave the ring behind. Tension fills the room as Bilbo acts unusually possessive about the ring, calling it his precious. Gandalf reminds Bilbo of the perils of the ring. A story about the dangers of wearing a ring. After an intense conversation, Bilbo puts it down on the ground and sets forth in search of new horizons. Gandalf is temporarily tempted to grasp for the ring, but he is dissuaded from doing so by a disturbing vision. The scene then shifts when Frodo enters and learns that he inherited something included the mysterious ring that might sense an impending threat. Before Gandalf goes to check his unsettling thoughts, he quickly gives Frodo the advice to watch after the ring and keep it safe. Gandalf sees a golden storm brewing in the distance, quickly takes shelter as Mordor flashes, exposing dark horsemen and the terrifying ring wraiths to part its frightening ring. Gate switches focus to Gandalf rushing to an ancient library. He reads old papers to find out the truth about the ring and how its hidden writings can be read through fire. As the ring wraiths get closer to Bilbo's house, a worried Gandalf runs back to Frodo and immediately throws the ring into a fire. Eventually appear on the surface of the ring being some sort of elvish. It seems Gandalf, realizing the full weight of the issue, they possessed none other than the Ring of Sauron. He elaborates to Frodo on the interwoven nature of the ring and its master long for reunion. The two Gandalf reveals his discovery regarding Saruman's capture of Gollum and how, under duress, Gollum revealed Bilbo's possession of the ring. In order to protect the Shire, Bilbo's ring must be removed from the region. Understanding the extent of power he would wield with the ring, he decides Frodo should be its bearer, warning of the repercussions of wearing the ring, the inevitable pull of dark forces. In the midst of their discourse, Gandalf is initially enraged at Frodo's buddy Sam's deeds as an eavesdropper. When Gandalf leaves Bilbo's home, he recognizes a faithful companion for Frodo's impending journey and chooses him as his guardian. The wizard instructs Frodo severely not to wear the ring unless he wishes to draw the wicked ring wraiths under Gandalf's guidance. Gandalf departs quickly after committing the two hobbits to their journey beyond the Shire's familiar realms. When night engulfs the globe, Sam and Frodo find themselves in uncharted territory, and when they set up camp, they are unaware that a lurking wraith is watching them from a distance. In the meantime, Gandalf rides quickly to the home of his trusted friend Saruman. He tells Saruman the amazing story of how an unknowing hobbit found the ring and asks for help. However, Saruman, already fully acquainted of Sauron's coming plots, somberly announces that Mordor is invincible, ominously declaring that the forces of darkness are set for a tremendous onslaught upon Middle-earth. Confirming the fears of the scandal, Saruman reveals his knowledge of the ring wraiths disguised as hooded horsemen that are now roaming the Shire, just as Gandalf is making preparations to come to the aid of the Hobbit. He is trapped with Saruman, who blocks every way out. The White Wizard asks Gandalf to join forces with the evil Sauron, but Gandalf refuses. This causes a fight between the two powerful wizards, whose staffs flash. Battle in a furious duel resounding throughout the sanctuary, with Saruman taking both their staffs and berate him for his defiance, sending him skyward. The scene then returns to the dew of unsuspecting hobbits. Strolling through a large field, Sam and Frodo come across Merry and Pippin, two playful hobbits on their way to evade an enraged farmer. The four join forces and rush through the terrain, only to tumble down a hill at the bottom. Frodo's instincts grew more sensitive and he felt evil coming as the cold wind blew. Whispers of wraiths are getting closer, so the group hides under a tree. A single ring wraith on his ghostly horse, spellbound by an overpowering yearning to wear the ring, barely avoids Sam's stop and exploits a fallen branch as a distraction. Ivina distracted them and gave them a breakthrough, expanding the team to 4. As night falls, they move through the dark woods, always one step ahead of their pursuer. The wraith's shadow keeps following them. Their journey through the labyrinth and trees is a test of stealth and wit, with the Nazgul always on the lookout for a possible exit. They follow them to the edge of a lake, where they steal a rowboat. Frodo makes the final jump into the boat, while the Nazgul stops and calls for more of its kind as the hobbits make their way to safety. The gathering wraiths make a plan to meet them at their next stop. Upon arriving in the busy town of Bree, the hobbits are directed past the town's gates and straight to the Prancing Pony Inn, where they have a rendezvous with Gandalf planned. The innkeeper's responses to their questions about the wizard are unsatisfactory, however. Settling down with the regulars, they plan their next move while a mysterious figure watches them from the shadows. The innkeeper reveals that the stranger is the deadly Ranger Strider. Their meeting is compromised when one of the hobbits accidentally reveals Frodo's identity to the room. Frodo trips and the ring lands on his finger by accident. This action propels him into the dark realm of Sauron's watchful eye and also alerts the wraiths to his precise location. As the hobbits' anxiety levels rise, Strider steps in and takes Frodo to a private room. Once Frodo is safe, Strider introduces himself and reprimands the hobbits for their reckless behavior while also warning them about the near danger. Unaware hobbits are sleeping as the town's defenses are later breached and the ring wraiths sneak into the inn. However, because of Strider's forethought, they are unharmed. While the decoys are being attacked in their beds in the aftermath, Strider reveals the origins of the Wraith. He says that the mighty kings were once enticed by the allure of the 9 human rings. Strider guides the hobbits on their journey towards Rivendell, the elven sanctuary, now eternally enslaved by their avarice. Their trip takes them across numerous terrains. Each has its own set of problems, and as dusk falls, they may camp under the great canopy of stars in the dark. The ice walls and the guard's strong tower Orthong. Saruman talks to Sauron's dark essence, and Sauron tells him he needs an army strong enough to match the power and fear of Mordor. Meanwhile, Gandalf is still locked up at the top of Orthong. From his vantage point, he sees a haunting scene below. Saruman, having abandoned his oath as a protector of Middle-earth, is orchestrating the formation of a powerful army designed to unleash devastation upon the lands. After their day's journey, the hobbits and Strider take cover in the ruins of an old watchtower as night comes down from the sky. Strider chooses to check out the area and gives the hobbits weapons to protect themselves. Despite his warnings, the hobbits light a fire, and its piercing light attracts the ring wraiths. Alerted by the eerie cold presence, the hobbits scramble to the tower's highest point. Foreboding 5 Nazgul's shadows congregate on them. Sam's attempt to repel a spirit fails, and he, Merry, and Pippin are pushed away. As Frodo stumbles and feels the strong pull of the ring, the world distorts, exposing the wraiths. In a scary ghostly form, one of them stabs him with a blade. Suddenly, Strider appears with a torch of flame in one hand and a sword in the other. He fights the wraiths fiercely, driving them away with his burning torch. But one wraith stays stubborn and is burned to death by Strider's thrown torch. The win is short-lived though. Strider looks at Frodo's wound and realizes that the mortal blade has done serious damage. Strider, knowing that only the elves have the ability to treat such a wound, takes Frodo and runs through the woods from the pinnacle of Isengard. Gandalf, imprisoned and desperate, observes a lone moth hovering nearby and takes advantage of the situation. He whispers a message to it, which the moth promptly carries away. Below, the very foundations of Isengard quake and tremble as ORCs forge weapons, blades, and armor, and a new breed arises from the mud. The Uruk-hai were more fearsome than any ORCs in the forest. As Strider hurriedly gathered herbs to halt Frodo's poisoning, Arwen, the elven princess, approached him gracefully, recognizing the urgency of the situation. She leads Frodo and rides towards Rivendell, but the chase is relentless as the ring wraiths on their black mounts get closer through forested areas and over rocky terrain. Arwen expertly avoids them, but they are obstinate. Never lessens until it reaches the banks of a river, when it utters an incantation that causes the waters to flood forth, taking the appearance of wild horses that crash down upon the Nazgul, reducing the menace and waking him from his slumber. Frodo is comforted by Gandalf, who tells him about how he escaped from the Tower of Isengard by riding on the wings of a beautiful eagle. His joy deepens as he reunites with his Hobbit companions, most notably Bilbo. During his absence, the ring's preservation has tested Bilbo, but he has spent his time in Rivendell diligently penning there and back again, a Hobbit's tale. And Arwen's father tells Gandalf in a grave voice that the ring's appearance in Rivendell can't last. Journey forward, Elrond, who is worried about the future of Middle-earth, says that the time of the elves and the dwarfs is over. Guys are too weak and selfish to help. He says that the ring's cursed presence is a result of Isildur not being able to destroy it. Despite this bleak outlook, there is still hope in the form of Gondor's exiled heir, who has promised to bring together the two lines of kings. In the aftermath of this proclamation, the truth about Strider is revealed. Beneath the appearance of the Ranger lies Aragorn, Isildur's direct descendant and Gondor's rightful heir. Additionally, the decades-long bond of love between Aragorn and Arwen is revealed. However, their devotion requires a tremendous sacrifice. Arwen must relinquish her elvish immortality, and Elrond summons the council, which includes Boromir, son of the Gondor Steward, who is swayed by the ring's allure and proposes harnessing its power. The Fellowship of Aragorn and Lega list caution against this alluring force, claiming the ring's inherent peril. The conclusion is clear to end. The ring must return to Mount Doom, its birthplace. Gimli brags to show. When the ring's resiliency attacks it with his axe, the blade breaks, and the council becomes a cauldron of mistrust as they determine who must destroy it. These dwarfsmen harbor ancient grudges against elves and are wary of both races. As the council stalls, a little voice breaks the tension. The least probable volunteer to carry the ring to Mordor is Frodo, but Gandalf promises to accompany him. Aragorn promises his sword, Legolas' bow, and Gimli's axe, revealing the three hobbits join in, and the 9 friends form a group called the Fellowship of the Ring. Later, Bilbo gives Frodo his sword sting, which glows blue when there are ORCs nearby. He also gives Frodo a mithril coat, which is stronger than steel but much lighter. Bilbo feels sadness for handing on the weight of the ring to his young relative, and the Fellowship departs from Rivendell. Their early days consist getting to know each other better and some fighting sessions for practice before attempting to traverse the Misty Mountains. Frodo falls and drops the ring as they cross through the Cross of Caradhras, but Boromir catches it up and appears briefly fascinated by its power before returning it to Frodo at Isengard. Saruman is aware of the Fellowship's origins, uses his magic to create a blizzard to block their path. Stuck in the snowstorm, the party discusses their next course of action. Once they get at the gate, Frodo decides, after consulting with the rest of the Fellowship, that they should venture into Moria's brains. After a while, Frodo figures out that the answer to the password to open the gate is friend in Elvish. Once inside, they find that Moria is not a bustling mind but a tomb, and it looks like all the dwarves who lived there were killed. Frodo is grabbed by a water monster in the water known as the Watcher. The Fellowship is able to fend off the beast, but as a result, they are dragged further into the mines, and the entrance behind them is damaged. They must navigate through the silent caverns. With utmost caution, the Fellowship is proceeding. Frodo senses a presence stalking them while Gandalf struggles to remember the maze-like passages. Gandalf struggles to remember the maze-like tunnel's course. Gandalf reveals that Gollum owned the ring, who has been following them since they left the Shire. As they move forward, they reach the huge dwarven city in Moria, where the once grand halls are now in ruins. Gimli is in a hurry to find a tomb. It's where his cousin Balin was laid to rest. the figure Bilbo had met on his adventures a long time ago. Gimli is sad about the loss close by. Gandalf reads from a dusty record book, which sadly describes the last days of the dwarves in Moria and ends with the ominous words, "They are coming." When I was interested, Pippin accidentally knocks a skeleton into a deep well. The sound of the skeleton's fall echoes through the halls. Almost immediately, they hear the drums of the deep in the distance. Arrows fly and the sounds get louder. Through the darkness, the company hastily barricades themselves in a chamber as a swarm of goblins advances at them. Defending their position, the Fellowship valiantly combats the onslaught just as they appear to have the upper hand. Comes in the fray, spreading chaos still stands after they stabbed it several times. Legolas shoots arrows at the troll with skill, but the troll tries to hit him with its chain. He uses the chain to climb up on the beast and fire an arrow that doesn't hit the troll as they fight it. Aragorn fights goblins to meet the beast but is struck unconscious before anybody can assist. The troll stabs Frodo, and the squad finishes off the remaining ORCs. Legolas ultimately killed the troll by shooting its head. When they find Frodo unharmed, the Fellowship is relieved. The mithril vest Bilbo gave him saved his life from the dangerous blow. The team moves through the complicated chambers, but comes to an abrupt halt as they discover that they are surrounded by a large number of goblins just as their predicament seems to be hopeless. An unexpected crimson brightness emits, forcing the goblins to scatter. Gandalf recognizes the menacing presence of a Balrog very immediately. The company is urged to leave immediately by a demon from the ancient realm, who emphasizes the gravity of the peril by saying that it is beyond their power to defeat it. After moving quickly through the corridors and labyrinth of Moria, they descend the adjacent staircase, until they reach a broken part. As the group jumps across, goblins shoot arrows at them, and Legolas tries to stop them. When only Aragorn and Frodo are left on the broken stairs, the platform breaks. The Bridge of Khazad-dûm provides just enough momentary stability for the group to rejoin the others as the demon reveals his visage. Gandalf the White commands them to cross while situating himself as their rearguard. Gandalf boldly challenges the Balrog as the flaming demon climbs upon the bridge, illuminating the abyss with its blaze. After successfully diverting the Balrog's attack, Gandalf then states that the bridge collapses under the Balrog's weight. The bridge collapses beneath the Balrog, but the creatures whip and ensnare Scandal's leg, dragging him to the edge. Before plunging into the obsidian abyss, he tells them to flee. The grief-stricken Fellowship cannot remain. With goblin projectiles still menacing them, Aragorn helps them flee. When the Fellowship of the Ring goes to the serene woods of Lothlorien to get away from their troubles in Moria for a while, they're surprised to find the Sylvan Elves there. By dusk, they lead Frodo to the ethereal Lady Galadriel, who grants him a private session. During their encounter, she encourages him to stare into a water-filled bowl known as her mirror. As he does so, ominous visions of the Shire and his companions captured by ORCs appear, and Lady Galadriel, the vengeful fiery eye of Sauron, sternly informs him that these are glimpses of what lies ahead should his journey fail. She forebodingly warns him of the internal divisions within the Fellowship and the approaching calamity the ring portends for each of them. Overwhelmed, Frodo doubts his capacity to handle this enormous burden alone, and Galadriel emphasizes how lonely it is for him to be the ring-bearer because if he fails, no one else can concurrently prevail. Saruman sends out the Arakai, which are huge, strong, and designed to destroy the world of people. They chase after the Fellowship with a chilling mission to kill everyone and almost make sure that the Hobbit is captured unharmed. In the middle of this growing danger, Lady Galadriel gives the Hobbit. She gives each member of the Fellowship a unique gift, like a bow or a sword. As a leaving gift, she gives Frodo a bright star of light that is ready to shine brightly for him. Even in the darkest periods, when all other lights have been extinguished, the Fellowship sets out on their journey, traversing the river on boats as they prepare themselves for the difficulties that lie ahead of them on their journey further. The dangerous Arakai sneakily shadow them from the thick woods, ready to attack when they reach land. On their way, the group sails past the impressive Argonath, which is also known as the Pillars of Kings and is a monument to the beauty of Gondor. Upon arriving at the coast, Aragorn gives the company some advice, telling them to rest and advising that they continue their journey under the cover of darkness. However, Frodo ventures off into the woodland, and his wandering does not go unnoticed, so Boromir follows him. When Boromir's obsession with the ring comes out, the talk takes a sinister turn, and he tries to take the ring from Frodo by force in an attempt to get away. When Frodo puts the ring on and disappears from view, he experiences the longest exposure to the effects of the ring while also engaging in a tense struggle with Sauron's blazing stare. When Frodo takes off the ring, he discovers Aragorn by his side, despite his initial misgivings. Frodo's uncertainty is reduced. As Aragorn shows his loyalty, the glowing blue of Sting warns them of impending danger. Aragorn tells Frodo to run away and puts himself between the young hobbit and the Uruk-hai's attack, facing the monsters alone. He fights them fiercely, giving Frodo a short break to run deeper into the forest. The battle gets worse when Legolas and Gimli join in, giving Aragorn time to get to Frodo's aid as he fights off a few ORCs. In a courageous act, Frodo hides behind a tree. Pippin and Merry attract the beast's attention at the expense of their safety in order to facilitate Frodo's escape. Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas fight the beasts tenaciously. Even though they make valiant attempts to protect the hobbits, Merry and Pippin end up being besieged at the worst possible time. When a horn's resonant note pierces the battlefield, Boromir, spurred on by redemption, joins the fight, but things quickly turn grim. While attempting to navigate the hordes of FOs to reach his buddy, Boromir signals Aragorn the whereabouts of his companion. Aragorn will be late for Boromir's last stand. A fatal arrow is fired by the Uruk-hai leader into Borom's chest, and in spite of his perseverance, later arrows bring about Boromir's demise. With his last breaths, he tries to protect Merry and Pippin, but the Uruk-hai were able to capture them. And hurry up now, Lurtz wants to give the fatal blow, but Aragorn stops him before he can. The duel that follows is fierce, with both fighters fighting hard, but Aragorn is driven by grief and determination. Overpowers and gets rid of vengeful Boromir went up to the hero who had fallen. Aragorn hears as the warrior says that in his last moments, he tried to steal the ring from Frodo. Boromir talks about how he feels about letting the Fellowship down. Aragorn comforts him by praising his Valor and Valor as life leaves him. With his last breath, Boromir pledges his allegiance to Aragorn as his king. Swore his loyalty with his last breath. Frodo, meanwhile, can't take the ring because it's too heavy. He gets on a boat by himself, but Sam, who is still loyal, won't let him journey alone even though he couldn't swim. Sam throws himself into the water. Sam remembers his promise to Frodo, reminding him of his determination to always be by his side. As Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli deliberate over Frodo's path, Frodo is prompted to save his suffering companion securely on board. Once they arrive at the opposing riverbank, they ultimately decide to trust him with his job and shift their attention to pursuing and hunting the Uruk-hai. Sam and Frodo climb a steep hill, and as they reach its summit, Mordor's terrible shape can be seen in the distance. The next part of their dangerous trip, the Two Towers, starts by going back to the heated fight between Gandalf and the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm. This time, the scene is shown from a different angle. Using Gandalf's story as an example, both enemies fall into the depths, where they continue to fight even as they fall. Their fight reaches its peak when they hit the water of an underground lake. Sam and Frodo continued their journey through the difficult terrain of Emyn Muil on the day after Frodo's abrupt awakening. They travel, but their efforts are futile as they become disoriented as darkness engulfs the slumbering landscape. Frodo and Sam are attacked by the former ring-bearer Gollum, who is obsessed with the ring he formerly wore. He attacks them in a ferocious manner. The conflict is ongoing as Gollum seems to be an untamed and erratic monster. Eventually, they were able to restrain him with rope, but Gollum is agonized by the touch of the rope. Sam is frustrated because he begins to cry out in agony, and she worries that the sounds will draw unwelcome attention. Despite this, Frodo feels sorry for the creature because he understands how much suffering the ring causes. Bearer. They agree to release Gollum on the condition that he direct them to Mordor's Black Gate. As they walk, Gollum's inner struggle arises in a heated self-debate, and he runs, disappearing in the broad plains of Rohan into the wilderness. The The Uruk-hai advance while gripping their captives. Merry and Pippin are being pursued by Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. After 3 days of relentless pursuit, the legalist concludes that the Hobbit's destination is Isengard, where the wizard is assembling an army of Uruk-hai. Under Sauron's command, the armies of Mordor amass by the thousands in the midst of this pandemonium under his watchful eye. As a consequence of the dark magic, Theoden, the ruler of Rohan, is ensnared in a malevolent spell. As a result of his steward worm language, the lands of Rohan suffer as ORCs, and the wild men of Dunland, urged on by the wicked wizard, wreak havoc in their brutality, claiming many victims, including Theoden's own son. Theoden's nephew, Éomer, and Wormtongue Éomer get into a fight. Grima's bad relationship with Saruman and his bad plans for his sister Éowyn were easy to see. He shows off his newfound power by challenging the server. He kicks him out of Rohan and sends him to a different part of the country. Even though tiredness is threatening to overtake them, Legolas and Gimli continue to pursue the united force of Uruk-hai and Oryx, moving in the direction of Saruman. In the midst of this pandemonium, the captive hobbits decide to take a break, and the Uruk-hai light a fire to signify their presence. Merry and Pippin watch as the Iraqi and Moria ORCs get into a fight. The Moria ORCs want to eat the hobbits, which the Uruk-hai strongly disagree with. Tensions hit a boiling point, leading to a violent skirmish. Seeing their chance, Merry and Pippin run away with a vengeful ORC on their tail. Éomer arrives in his Rohirrim just in time and, with Swift, saves them from their dangerous situation. And with lethal efficiency, they slaughter every enemy in sight, ensuring that their victory is complete. At the break of dawn the following day, the Rohirrim meet up with Aragorn, despite the dismal report that Éomer had brought. Lack of living people, Aragorn's instincts take him to the battleground, where he sees signs of the hobbits' escape into the depths of Fangorn Forest. Merry and Pippin came close to dying. Inflicted by an ORC is stopped by an unlikely hero. They are led farther into the woods to a figure he refers to as the White Wizard by Treebird, one of the venerable ancient ants. In an unexpected turn, the two hobbits are seen gazing upward with anticipation and anxiety visible in their eyes. The journey that Frodo and Sam are on takes them through the eerie dead marshes, and Gollum sincerely vows to helping them. Entranced by the spirits in the marsh and where the phantoms of warriors from the Second Age continually haunt the murky waters, Frodo loses his footing and plunges in. Surprisingly, Gollum pulls him to safety. The following evening, Gollum and Frodo are having a deep talk, during which Frodo calls Gollum Smeagol, which prompts recollections of Gollum's former life and identity. However, their moment of bonding is cut short by the terrible sounds of the ring. The trio run for cover as Frodo struggles with the ring's overwhelming temptation, but they were wrong, and a terrifying scene occurs when a ring wraith on its frightening flying fall. In the depths of Fangorn Forest, a creature that like a huge, dark dragon patrols the skies, casting a foreboding shadow before vanishing into the distance. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas run into the mysterious White Wizard. When they recognize him as their old buddy Gandalf, their initial concerns vanish, but he has changed and is now known as Gandalf. The wizard describes his terrifying battle with the Balrog, including how they both fell into the abyss and how their fight led them up the never-ending staircase to the top of Xaraxagil, where Gandalf defeated the monstrous demon. To hasten their travel, Gandalf summons Shadowfax. The crew targets Adoras and is ready to face the corruption that has taken over, led by the majestic Lord of the Mirrors and Shadowfax. Hold of Rowan's kingdom and the size of the Fangorn Forest, Merry and Pippin are being carefully carried by Treebird through its twisting trails when their tiredness takes over and the two hobbits fall asleep, laying them down. Treebird mutters about the urgent chores that lie ahead and the need to gather the ants somewhere else while standing on a mossy area. Frodo, when Sam and Gollum arrive at Mordor's Dark Gate, the guards are on guard and keeping a close eye on them. A moment of tragedy occurs as Sam's perch on the rocky outcrop below falls away and tumbles to the ground when a battalion of Sterlings from Maroon march forth reinforces the fortress's defense. Frodo is terrified and immediately covers them in Galadriel's magical cloak. The Easterlings check the cloak and perceive only an unremarkable boulder. As they consider rushing through the gate, Gollum suggests an option. Sam continues to have doubts about Gollum, but Frodo notices a hint of the monster's former personality as they make a quieter entrance into Mordor. Smeagol, seeing the Golden Hall of Medusa, decides to walk the road of kindness and understanding. Gandalf and his group ascend the steps while being surrounded by the exhausted Adora's soldiers. The only weapon left is Gandalf's staff, and there is a seemingly innocuous walking aid inside the hall. King Theoden is seated on his throne and is aware of Saruman's evil holds over the king. Gandalf moves quickly forward, neutralizing the guards to give himself the chance to order the dark spirit of Saruman to flee. King Theoden, disgusted by Wormtongue's deceit, casts him out of the kingdom. The king, overwhelmed with grief but mindful of the impending danger, then meets the lifeless body of his son. Wormtongue has been cast out of the kingdom. Before the mass exodus begins, he comes to the conclusion that it would be better for his people to be moved to the fortress of Helm's Deep than to engage in combat. Gandalf, always cognizant of the greater picture, diverts his attention away from the shadow truths in order to find Aemir. And the Rohirrim quickly informs an irate Saruman of the events in Adoras while promising to reunite with the others at Helm's Deep within 5 days. Seeing how dangerous Aragorn was, Saruman sends out warg riders to stop Rohan's people from getting to Helm's Deep. In the thickets of Ithilien, Smeagol and Gollum fought with each other. By the end, Smeagol emerges triumphant, banishing Gollum and feeling liberated from his sinister side. The group looks in astonishment as the ground rumbles as dawn comes. Under the weight of the colossal saffron war elephants, but Smeagol's sudden absence keeps the hobbits from noticing. As the huge creatures march towards them, the air gets tense, and then Gondorian archers appear out of nowhere. Letting off steam volleys of arrows, the South Thrones are caught off guard and lose a lot of people in the chaos. Frodo and Sam are found by troops of Gondor on the rough paths to Helm's Deep and taken prisoner. Eowyn's speech. Although their journey isn't uninterrupted, Aragorn's intrigue intensifies their discussion about the necklace, and Aragorn's past attachment reveals layers of emotions. After moving forward, a warg scout ambushes some Rohan scouts. Swift archery by Legolas puts an end to the immediate threat. A mass evacuation to Helm's Deep places Eowyn in command of removing the populace. As the warg riders draw near, Legolas's lethal accuracy dispatches a few enemies. Men of Rohan engage the enemy while they hold their own, however, as the scope of the approaching menace becomes apparent. The brutality of the struggle in Brugh is made clear. Aragorn displays exceptional bravery, and Theoden displays unwavering resolve. War is unpredictable. Aragorn gets kidnapped by an orc and falls off a cliff. Legolas gets an elven token from a mocking orc symbolizes Aragorn's fate with sad hearts. Rohan. Citizens gaze at Helm's Deep's massive walls and battlements as the army follows. During the reunion, Gimli breaks the heartbreaking news to Eowyn, killing her newfound optimism in the shadow of Orthanc. Saruman presents his grand army to a tired Wormtongue. We see a huge army of Uruk-hai heading for Helm's Deep, and then we hear Saruman's chilling order that man will never see another daybreak. The earth seems to shake as they march out, a sign of the disaster to come. We then switch to the ancient woodlands. Merry and Pippin are acutely aware of the significance of the upcoming conflict. The sight of the enormous expanse of Saruman's army, which is visible from their vantage point, fills them with dread. Meanwhile, in an unexpected turn of events, Aragorn, who was thought to be dead, is found by Brego riding along the riverbanks. With a steely determination, the Rangers race against time to reach the elven realm of Rivendell. Even though it is far from the immediate danger, Elrond is haunted by the thought that the elves will always win. The Twilight. He begs his daughter Arwen to abandon her love for Aragorn and leave for the country of the dead, painting a heartbreaking image of the sorrow and misery she would experience if she did not do this. Gloomy predictions. Shakes Arwen's resolve, causing her to reconsider her choice to leave. Galadriel then consults with Elrond. Both of them are aware of the impending siege on Gondor, and their discussion hints at a greater question. Should the vanishing elves intervene in the fate of humans? Or leave Middle-earth for good? In the stone-walled heart of Gondor, the dimly lit caverns of Henathanen become Frodo and Sam's temporary prison. The air is full of stress and interest. In many ways, Fair was like his brother Fallen, but also very different, struggles with the weight of living in Boromir's shadow. As he tells stories of their happier times, an angry undercurrent shows how complicated his relationship with his demanding father is. Deny there a big change when Frodo wakes up under the shroud of night. He sees a moonlit pool. This becomes the scene of a power struggle, with Gollum's life in the balance. Archers wait for Faramir's order to fire. When Frodo attempts to save Smeagol, he is instead captured by the miserable creature, whose eyes reveal profound betrayal, and who is at the mercy of Faramir and his troops. As Gollum re-emerges Faramir, Frodo's inner struggle re-emerges. Aragorn discovers Frodo's ring and decides to travel to Gondor, racing towards Helm's Deep. He encounters the Akai army and realizes the overwhelming battle ahead, reaching the fortress. His entrance brightens the mood, but with just 300 defenders, the situation quickly becomes gloomy. Bleak Theoden is hesitant despite Aragorn's pleading to ask for assistance because of his load from previous defeats. Meanwhile, Merry and Pippin, the unexpected players, observe as the ancient tree in the Fangorn forest holds an ant council. In stark contrast to the intense events taking place in the world, the creatures deliberate carefully. In Helm's Deep, everyone who can fight is armed while women and children seek safety. But then hope appears. Haldir, an Elrond gift, leads the elven archers. Be prepared to join the battle and serve as a symbol of solidarity during difficult times. Helm's Deep's wet walls sparkle as the storm rages. The tension among the fortress defenders grows as each thunderclap increases the sharp illumination of Saruman's enormous Orakai army and the scary battle cries from the oncoming enemies that are reverberating back as the women and children hide inside the caverns. The warriors are steadfastly positioned on the wall. A senior citizen unintentionally shoots an arrow and discovers its mark. Swiftly joined by the human archers, who together with swifts with their combined firepower bring down waves of the charging Uruk-hai with their silvery shafts glinting in the rain. However, the Uruks strike back with crossbow arrows that quickly clatter on the crumbling wall as the monstrous enemies scramble higher. In the thick of the melee, the clash of swords, shields, and cries of the dead resound through the night. Legolas has a total of 17, while Gimli has 2, using more forceful tactics away from the pandemonium in the heart of Fangorn Forest. The two engage in friendly competition. The ant moot continues glacially. Pace each meticulous conversation and lengthy deliberation. Marion. Gimli aggressively swings his axe at each Uruk-hai, counting each one as his frustration with Helm's Deep builds. Almost immediately, he kills 21-20 to Hel's. The sinister Uruk-hai plants Saruman's explosive contraption, a scary weight, and a loud explosion. The main gate is immediately the center of the Uruk-hai's attention as they push and beat against it, shattering the once invincible defense and forcing the defenders to brace it. Uruk-hai flood and Gimli runs from a height among the throng below. Axe-swinging elves launch a rain of arrows seeking to cut down the invaders from the inside through the blasted breach in the wall. The scene briefly changes to Fangorn Forest, where Treebeard speaks slowly and deliberately to Merry and Pippin. But the Uruk-hai numbers seem to go on forever. This war is not ours. He continues, but the hobbits, despite their unflinching spirits, disagree with the old order. Back at Helm's Deep, the fight is raging. Despite their courage, an overwhelming number of Uruk-hai pour in, and an Aragorn sword effortlessly slices through them. Aragorn serves Aragorn's anguish and wrath as the leader of the elven reinforcements dies in the defenders' midst of the turmoil. Even King Theoden is injured in the assault in a risky move, making the situation even more dire as he battles with increased fury to exact revenge on his fallen friend. Gimli and Aragorn cut through the Uruk-hai on the bridge at will by darting in from behind, but there aren't enough ladders to go around. As the barriers rise up, Legolas desperately tries to knock them down. At their last stand, the remaining defenders reinforce the main wall. Gimli and Aragorn using a throne rope, the defenders have no choice but to climb the walls as the relentless Uruk-hai do so. But to withdraw further into the keep in the meanwhile, Treebeard, grieved by the sight of the fallen forest, roars in a deep, melancholy tone. The once hesitant ants now rally with renewed determination among our ruins. Gileath, as Faramir plans to send the ring to his father, Sam fiercely intervenes to remind him about the ring's peril. The very thing that Boromir let get in the way of his progress. After that, Frodo tells Sam that they came from the cloudy sky, and fearsome ring wraiths descend riding on horses. Siege inside the keep. Hope fades for those inside, but even in the midst of despair, Aragorn remembers Gandalf's words. Despite their sinister winged steeds, the creatures, and the troops scrambling for cover, the wraith's very presence saps their confidence and hope. He and Theoden rallied their remnants and made a desperate bid to buy time for the weak, a final act of courage in the face of overwhelming odds, their swords. A fight against the enemy. Shadowfax's rider is Aimer, and the riders of the Rohirrim stand tall against the dawn's early light, creating an incredible spectacle against the bright horizon. A Shadowfax rider Aimer and the riders of the Rohirrim stand tall against the dawn's early light, creating an incredible spectacle against the bright horizon. As they rush, a wave of hope washes over the defenders of Helm's Deep. The sun's rays create a dazzling glare on the Uruk-hai, sowing confusion and panic in their ranks, and the cavalry slams into them like a tidal wave. Swords gleaming, hooves trampling, this battleground in Isengard seems to steal victory from failure. Nature's oldest guardians rage. The ants, with their towering size, wield boulders as if they were little pebbles while laying havoc upon Saruman's defilement. Their fury, which is horrifying and awe-inspiring, leaves no ORCs standing. Saruman, once a powerful wizard, is now only a bystander as his industrial behemoth is destroyed. The ants, in a calculated act of retaliation, breach the dam, releasing a flood of water that engulfs Saruman. Isengard's foundation is cleansed of Saruman's destructive force, and the ants' resilience stands tall as a tribute to nature's enduring might in the ancient city of Osgiliath. Tension fills the air as the ring wraith chases Frodo. Pulled to the ring's allure, but now, with Sam's fierce allegiance and a timely arrow from Faramir, it is not to be. The pursuit of the ring wraith is stopped, but the ring is heavy. Its allure, which is ever growing and threatening to ensnare Frodo, even as we see the army at Helm's Deep slaughter the wicked army and the ants succeed in destroying Isengard. Sam gives a narration of how the story has to progress, and they have to complete their quest. After hearing this, Faramir resolves to release them despite the risk, since he still believes that there is good in the world that is worth fighting for, in accordance with Gondorian law. Meanwhile, as the remnants of Saruman's army depart, they are intercepted by the ancient protectors of the forest, who predicts that the great battle's aftermath will reveal tales of valor and companionship Eowyn and Aragorn embrace. The battle is won as Legolas and Gimli continue their friendly competition, with Legolas scoring 42 kills and Gimli scoring 43. But the conflict has not yet ended. Gandalf conveys a grim message. The fate of Middle-earth hangs in the balance as Sauron's vengeance approaches, and Frodo and Sam must navigate a hazardous route that includes Gollum, a cunning creature who is feeling betrayed. And betrayed considers a sinister scheme hatching to bring them to her, the future uncertain and the hazardous route ahead. In its final scene, the Two Towers prepares the audience for the final act. We see a return to a time many years before the main story takes place. Smeagol and his friend Deagol are fishing near the river Anduin in the Gladden Fields. Suddenly, Deagol is pulled into the river by a strong catch and finds the Golden One ring lying in the silt of the riverbank. Fascinated by its beauty, he attentively admires it and becomes obsessed. Smeagol becomes enraged with wanting the ring for himself and demands that Deagol give it to him as a gift for his birthday. When Deagol refuses, their argument turns violent, and Smeagol kills Deagol and takes the ring as his own. He is outcast by his people and forced to flee into the wilderness alone, with only the ring for company. The ring steadily tortures and corrupts his body and mind. Its evil power changes his personality and lengthens his life in a way that doesn't make sense. He runs away to the Misty Mountains and turns into Gollum, a disgusting, slimy creature who lives in caves. When the ring must be destroyed far away to the west beyond the mountains, on Mount Doom, hundreds of years later, two young hobbits selected to carry the destiny of Middle-earth approach the dark country of Mordor. The riders of Rohan take them to Isengard, where they meet Merry and Pippin as the rest of the Fellowship gets ready for war against Mordor's soldiers. They find the defeated wizard Saruman imprisoned at the pinnacle of Orthanc by the ancient ants. Gandalf counsels mercy, believing that Saruman is now powerless. This is where they find him among the rubble. No longer a danger, Saruman tries to change their minds with his words, but it doesn't work. Gandalf breaks his staff to send a message and kicks Wormtongue out of the Order of Wizards. Wormtongue stayed true to Saruman until the end. Saruman suddenly attacks in rage but is killed by Legolas and dies by falling from the tower, sadly coming to rest on a big spiky wheel. Pippin decides to take the seeing since he's curious. Gandalf conceals a Palantir stone beneath his cloak. The Fellowship travels to the capital of Adoras, where King Theoden has planned a lavish feast in the Golden Hall to remember the warriors who lost their lives in the Battle of Helms. The king senses this but grants Aragorn his blessing because he has shown to be a loyal ally, as Eowyn stole long glances at him, unable to hide her developing infatuation. planned their hard-won victory against all odds while everyone was celebrating. Gandalf tells Sam about his worries. Frodo is running out of time to destroy the ring and get away from Mordor, but Aragorn makes him feel better. As the hobbits try to get some rest, Gollum sneaks out into the shadows while muttering to himself in conflict. He feels confident that Frodo still lives. He has second thoughts about betraying the master who granted him mercy because there is still some good left in him. However, his golem silences these fears, arguing that his death of Dagel proved he could kill again if necessary, and Gollum will lead the hobbits to their destiny. If the ring returns to Shelob's lair, his clever plan is to leave the hobbits in a tunnel leading to her, where when she is defeated, he can regain his prized possession. Gollum's plotting. Sam rages and strikes him for treason, but Frodo insists Gollum be their guide. Frodo reluctantly insists Gollum be their guide because without him the mission is doomed after his treachery. Sam retreats as Frodo leaves. Sam is shot by Gollum, a sly gloating smirk that fatal night in Adora's hip and sensational curiosity overcome him. Gandalf sleeps and silently takes the Palantir, gazing into its dark depths to discover its secrets. Pippin watches Minas Tirith's white tree burned by flames. But when Pippin looks into the stone, Sauron knows he is there. The Dark Lord's mind invades Pippin's and tortures the young hobbit mentally as he questions him about the ring. Gandalf covers the orb despite shaking as Aragorn tries to wrest the stone. Pippin recovers and Gandalf says he didn't betray Frodo's quest to Sauron. Sauron now believes Pippin has the One Ring and is using it to mean his Tirith, understanding the city will be his next target. Gandalf rides to Minas Tirith with Pippin to tell Gondor's steward immediately. Arwen suddenly sees her future son Eldirion, who she would have with Aragorn should he claim his birthright, as she gets ready to leave Middle-earth for the uncharted territories. She quickly returns to Rivendell after realizing her father, Elrond, had misled her about having no future with Aragorn. There, she persuades Elrond that Aragorn is where she will fulfill her destiny. She says that the long-awaited time has come to rebuild King Narsil's sword, an ancient relic destroyed in battle with Sauron, is the rightful king's birthright. Aragorn will need the sword reforged in order to claim his birthright, since it could change the tide against the shadow. As they travel again, Gandalf and Pippin arrive at the White City of Minas. When they search for Steward Denather, who they discover grieving the loss of his son Boromir, Pippin recognizes the White Tree and swears his allegiance. Tyrish was forged there from Mendolan stone. Denather has disregarded making the necessary preparations to protect Minas Tirith from Sauron in order to honor the sacrifice of Boromir, who was lost in grief. He tells Gandalf of Aragorn's claim to the throne and his refusal to accept Rohan's aid to maintain his authority. Gandalf rages and they watch the gathering storm clouds from Mordor, knowing an army will follow that fateful night in Minas Tirith as Pippin dons his armor. Gandalf sees Mordor looming. He warns that Sauron has put together a more dangerous army than just ORCs. This army includes monsters and soldiers from faraway places. Even Terrible the Undying Witch King of Angmar, chief of the Nazgul who stabbed Frodo on Weathertop as the greatest of the 9 ringwraiths, has been unleashed by Sauron to rule them, whose stronghold is Venus Morgul. Frodo, the wicked citadel of Minas Morgul, was reached by Sam and Gollum. In Shadow Mountains, Gollum guides them up a high cliff stairway. The city's power draws Frodo to it, but he merely succumbs to Gallimims. Sam pulls him back as a green fire pillar explodes from lower left. Gandalf, Pippin, and the Gondorians notice this signal flare in Morgan's night sky in Minas Tirith. Vale Frodo falls as the city quietens again. Then, when the Witch King emerges from his fallen beast, Frodo's mortal blade wound is revived by his cries. Sauron's enormous army advances behind their terrible captain. The group as you climb the dangerous pass of Cirith, Uncle Sam tells Gollum not to hurt Frodo because he will be gone for good in Minas Tirith. Gandalf finds out that the Mordor troops are moving. Now, in the rubble of Osgiliath Faramir, the Great War starts, and his ranger garrison prepare their defenses thinking the ORCs are low across the river, but they are secretly rafting into the city headed by the horribly deformed Gothmog. As the rafts approach near, a soldier spies them. After being killed by Gothmog, Faramir hastily organizes the defense against the ORCs, anticipating a surprise onslaught from the north. When the rafts reach shore, Gothmog commands the charge. Faramir leads the counterattack as ORCs flood Skilith. The garrison first fights bravely. but are overwhelmed by superior numbers as more rafts land and ORCs surge over the bridge into Minas Tirith. Pippin covertly lights the beacon signaling Gondor's aid request. While the chain quickly transmits the message, Denethor broods uncomfortably in Adoras as Gandalf observes from the walls. Aragorn hastily informs Theoden that Gondor needs assistance. Theoden decides Rohan will respond to the call to war after giving it some thought, and as they prepare, Eowyn insists on riding as well. Saying that the people have found their leader in Aragorn, Merry swears to serve Theoden and becomes an esquire of Rohan. As the Rohirrim gather, Theoden looks at the banner of Rohan. As the Shelby's final fight approaches, Éomer encourages the soldiers to keep their oaths and ride for lord and country. With that, everyone leaves for Dunharrow in battle, where the ORCs are slaughtered and overpowered. Faramir nearly avoids an ORC ambush because of covering arrows, but the garrison successfully overwhelms Gondor's defense, and that there is little chance of keeping the city. He screams for help. In the course of the assault, the vicious Gothmog kills Lieutenant Faramir, who says men's age is over. As Faramir's men, they flee over the plains and are killed by Nazgûl. But just in time, Gandalf and Pippin ride out from Tirith and use a beam of light from Gandalf's staff to drive the wraiths away. The remaining ranger then safely arrived at the city's refuge after seeing Pippin, and Faramir reveals that he recently met Frodo and Sam. Heading to Sareth, Uncle Gandalf is troubled, but before he can discover more, Denethor meets his son in the throne room and shames him for losing Gilith and letting the ring go to Mordor. He says that Boromir would have brought him the ring if he had been a hobbit, but Faramir says that it would have corrupted and killed him, just as Gilith the Witch King tells his troops to destroy all of Minas Tirith. Angered by Faramir's inability to defend us, Pippin joins Lord Denethor's service and pledges his allegiance and loyalty to him. He then makes a personal commitment to defeat the wizard Gandalf. As the hobbits ascended the steep steps, Gilith Denethor spitefully manipulates him to somehow regain the city. Faramir unwillingly complies with his father's request and rides off on a fruitless quest. Gollum tricks Frodo by pretending to feel his pain, while poisoning him against faithful Sam, stating Sam will grab the ring later. Frodo becomes distrustful of Sam as Gollum blames him for consuming their provisions in his crazy state. Gollum asks Sam to go home after he innocently offers to carry the ring, as he foretold honorably leading a small band of valiant soldiers. Faramir rides straight towards the ORC camps outside of Osgiliath, but Denethor keeps eating indifferently while Pippin sings for him. Faramir and his men bravely charged right into the ORCs, arrows meeting their horrible yet noble fate because Yennefer callously intended Harrow. Theoden gathers the Rohirrim, but many allies have not arrived. He and Aragorn inspect the 6,000 warriors ready to fight Mordor. Aragorn encourages immediate departure, knowing each missed hour brings Gondor closer to defeat. The troops fear the shadowed mountain road rumored to be haunted. Aragorn spies a ghostly figure, but it vanishes that night. Eowyn prepares Merry for fight. Éomer says war is for men in his tent, doubting the hobbits' readiness. Aragorn dreams of Arwen withering as Sauron rises, and Elrond warns Minas Tirith will fall without aid. They need more men as a corsair fleet approaches. Elrond says the mountain ghost will answer their king and delivers reforged android to embrace his destiny with Legolas and Gimli. Aragorn says there are none. Aragorn travels the spooky route to call the dead. Theoden believes that Rohan must give it a shot despite Rohan's concerns. Regretfully watches her uncle appoint him to lead Rohan if he fails. Eric, Legolas, and Gimli enter the haunted mountain trails to the dead men's lair. Legolas remembers Isildur's curse to never rest till helping Gondor. Meanwhile, the Roh and their 6,000 soldiers flee, ready for war. Mordor army marched to war, including trolls and ORCs in the caves as the companions faced the ghostly king who said only Gondor's king could command him. Aragorn tells Andrew that the royal bloodline has been reforged. The king attacks, but Aragorn disarms him with ease. He tells the ghosts to keep their promise at Minas Tirith, but they refuse and leave as the cave collapses. The companions narrowly escape and watch the corsair fleet sailing from a burning city. Aragorn despairs, believing Gondor lost, but the ghost king reappears and agrees to fight. The siege of Minas Tirith starts. Guards carry Faramir's body to the citadel as 200,000 ORCs commence their attack with siege towers and catapults, dragging him back as Denethor declares his line of defense ended. Outside of Guthama, where the army is assaulting the walls with large boulders, Denethor declares the stewardship while refusing to pay attention to the fact that Faramir lives. Denethor has no hope left. so as to cower in cowardice in response to Denethor's frailty. Gandalf intervenes and uses his staff to knock him out. Gandalf assumes control and organizes the defense of the city. The fight for Minas Tirith continues as Gandalf orders the retreating army to throw these nasty beasts into the abyss, and the city's trebuchets crush ORCs with rubble and debris. Stones fall on enemy ranks. But Gothmog tells them to remain firm, and a fierce catapult fight kills both sides. Witch King and Nazgul swoop from above to destroy catapults, intensifying the struggle. And sowing as the wraiths soar overhead, their terrifying screeches frighten the men, including Pippin. Gandalf orders the Gondorians to stand firm, urging them to defend their stations despite the danger. The ORCs sent wave after wave of their ruthless board. The combat engulfs Minas Tirith in carnage at the Great Gate. Rama batters Ram as Pippin joins Gandalf on walls. Gandalf orders him to return to the Citadel to rescue Pippin from ORCs. When Pippin kills an ORC, Gandalf says hobbits shouldn't fight. Gandalf praises. Gothmog orders the enormous wolf-shaped Ramgran to emerge. ORCs singing its name as Grand approaches. Gandalf knows the gate will be breached. When the Corsairs refuse to surrender, Aragorn deploys the army of the dead in the tunnels at Cirith to prevent them from entering Gondor. Frodo is left behind by Uncle Gollum in Shelob's lair. Sam stumbles as he climbs the pass but discovers crumbs. Gollum is defeated upon realizing he must save Frodo by himself from the webs. Frodo repels Shelob, a huge spider. He escapes with Galadriel's file, realizing Gollum betrayed him, but the column strikes again and Frodo casts him off a cliff, weary. Frodo collapses, but Galadriel's vision inspires him to go alone. His desire to destroy the ring continues as the Great batters the main gate. Gandalf leads the Gondorians to defend the first level above. In madness, Denethor prepares to burn himself to save Faramir. Pippin secretly tracks Bronze through the gate as trolls and ORCs attack and slay the front line, suspecting disaster. Gandalf rallies warriors against unending hordes. As Frodo approaches the flaming first level, Uncle Shelob hides and manages to sting and then web him. Sam arrives, warding off Shelob with the light of Irindal. After a furious fight, Sam seriously wounds the spider, who flees, assuming Frodo is dead. Sam mourns till the sting glows and ORCs declare Frodo alive. Realizing his mistake, Sam watch helplessly as they take Frodo to the Tomb Tower. Pippin fails to stop Denethor's madness. Gandalf orders retreat to the second floor as ORCs burn the city. Pippin catches him and reveals Denethor's plot, intervening soon. Faces the Witch King, who shatters his staff with dark powers, and the Wraith loom homes over Gandalf Rowan's horns. The Witch King shrieks in fury outside the city. The Rohirrim arrive at the Palanir Fields headed by Theoden. Eowyn states courage is needed. Gothmog instructs pikemen to advance archers behind. Theoden gathers his troops. He is leading the glorious charge on this red day. The scene changes to the tomb as Gandalf stops Denethor's madness as arrows fall uselessly as the riders charge through the ORCs, trampling and crushing the foe. Despite seeing his son still alive, Denethor burns pushes Pippin out of the flames, and Pippin casts him from the city in despair in the middle of the conflict. The Rohirrim wreck the ORCs, yet with valiant effort, the battle starts to shift their way. As the ORCs start to leave though, a huge line of Oliphaunts carrying Herodrum warriors comes into view as an even bigger danger. Theoden doesn't waste any time. He gathers his forces and launches a new assault, this time aiming for the monstrous animals that the Oliphaunts wreak are stomping many Rohirrim underfoot. Amber successfully overthrows a Herodrum captain, causing his mount to lose control and collide with another Oliphant, knocking them both to the ground. The Herodrum then rains down arrows from the heights of these beasts, heightening the pandemonium. While the battle rages, Eowyn and Merry bravely maneuver through, killing an Oliphant by aiming at its legs. Despite their best attempts, Eowyn and Merry are knocked off their steed when Theoden orders focused fire on another Oliphant. When the beast falls, Theoden tries to rally the troops but is severely hurt when he encounters the terrifying Witch King. When Merry unexpectedly steps in to help, however, Eowyn fights the Witch King and displays incredible bravery despite being first defeated. In the meantime, the Black Fleet surprises the ORCs by arriving. She announces, "I am no man," and strikes the fatal blow, defeating him. Aragorn and Legolas emerge, leading the ethereal army of the dead. Gimli by his side, they charge and kill most of the ORCs. During this, Legolas and Gimli count their kills in a friendly competition, and Legolas kills a Moomacle in a very amazing way. As the ghost army swarms without Tirith, enemies fall like dominoes, turning the battle decisively in favor of the good side and bringing an end to a fierce fight. A gravely wounded Théoden dies proudly in Éowyn's arms as the survivors flee. View the carnage. Aragorn releases the army of the dead from combat, and Pippin anxiously searches for Merry, finding his injured cousin beneath a Moomacle in essential turn of events. The ORC's internal feud over Frodo's prized mithril shirt causes mayhem, which Sam valiantly saves Frodo from. With the diversions of the tower, the pair then set off on their difficult journey across Mordor in the direction of Mount Doom. Aragorn, being the planner, proposes a strategy utilizing the Palantir. Aragorn baits Gandalf with his immense knowledge, reveals the intimidating amount of ORCs waiting between them and Mount Doom. As they march towards the Black Gate with Sauron sending his army to oppose them, the gate suddenly opens to expose the threatening enemy forces. A tense standoff then develops as both sides get ready to engage in combat. The men of Middle-earth are quickly surrounded, showing how different the men in each army are. At the same time, the way up Mount Doom shows Frodo and Sam's true friendship. Sam picks up a tired Frodo and carries him to the Battle of the Miranda, where both sides are fighting for their life. In the midst of the chaos, an enraged Gollum attacks Sam, and Frodo narrowly avoids the battle to Mount Doom in Russia.